What happens when powerful wise men seek baby Jesus and call him the king? I can tell you one thing. The king of the Jews won't be so happy. Also, how does Santa Claus tie in with the birth of Jesus? Come and see.
Hello there. What topping did Pastor Kenny put on his holiday flavored coffee? The 4 choices are 1. Crushed candy canes, 2. Ground nutmeg, 3. A cinnamon stick, 4. Holiday sprinkles. The correct answer is crushed candy canes.
My good sir, as your friendly and kind insurance man, may I give you some advice?
Yes?
My advice is, sell your car, buy a scooter, and stop calling me.
So what happened, Johnson?
My grandfather, bless his little soul, was dressed up as Santa Claus and was standing on the roof. He then picked up a giant present and said he was going to throw it at me. Oh, it was scary.
That sounds like a bad idea.
I was afraid he would fall off the roof, so I ran inside and locked myself inside my room and hid under my cozy covers. Oh, the shame.
What happened next?
Then my grandfather fell through the roof, boom, and landed on my bed, bang, and I sprained my wrist. It was horrible. The pain, oh.
I'm so sorry, Johnson.
I got a big boo-boo, but thankfully my grandmother had a little band-aid that I put on my boo-boo. But Pastor Kenny, as I was thinking and lying in my bed in pain and crying, I was wondering why people dress up like Santa Claus at Christmas time. He has not been in any of our Bible stories, so what does he have to do with the birth of Jesus?
That's a really good question.
On 2, break! Blue 22! Blue 22! Set! Hey! Go, go, go! Touchdown!
Around the year 300, there was a pastor in Asia Minor, the region where Paul planted churches. His name was Nicholas. We honestly do not know much about him, but there are many stories about his kindness and generosity. He was rich because his departed parents left him their wealth, but he wanted to give away his money to help those in need. In fact, he would secretly give gifts to people. Living near Pastor Nicholas was a poor man with 3 daughters. After a series of bad events, this man was afraid that his daughters would be sold into slavery or even worse. Pastor Nicholas wanted to secretly help them, so he decided to give each of them money without telling them. One story says he dropped the money down the girl's chimney. Another version says he put the girl's money in stockings that were drying near the fire. Over time, the stories of Pastor Nicholas grew and grew, just like Davy Crockett. Many people started calling him Saint Nicholas. In the Dutch language, Saint Nicholas is translated Sinterklaas. Many Americans pronounce the name Sinterklaas as Santa Claus. There was a legend, not true, but a legend, that if children were good, then Saint Nicholas would secretly leave them gifts. The Dutch even celebrated the Feast of Saint Nicholas every December 6th. In America, this December festival merged with other seasonal traditions and is celebrated on Christmas. Poems were written about Nicholas, and his appearance evolved from being a pastor who wanted to help the poor to a jolly old man with a beard who rode a flying sleigh, had reindeer, and gave gifts to good little children. So, in the early 1900s, Coca-Cola paid an artist to draw pictures of Santa. So the artist used inspiration from many pictures of Santa from the past and ended up making Santa's suit red and white, just like a Coke. Sadly, many people do not know the real story of Pastor Nicholas, how he was a good man who used his money to help the poor. So the next time you see a depiction of Santa Claus, just think back to the real Pastor Nicholas and imitate his good deeds by giving to people who are in need. In this episode, we are going to learn about the wise men who were very generous and brought gifts to worship Jesus the King. This episode can be found in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Please read the passage for yourself. The events in this narrative happened around the year 4 BC in Bethlehem and Jerusalem. Today's main proverb is, bring gifts to worship King Jesus. It's time for the narrative. Let's learn. After Jesus meets Simeon and Anna, his family travels back to Bethlehem and moves into a house. Everything seems normal except for the new star that is shining over the house. In a far-off land to the east, a group of wise men notice the new star. These men study the stars. They are very powerful, rich, and smart. As they investigate the star, they believe that it is a sign of a newborn Jewish king. Perhaps they know about Balaam's prophecy that a star would rise from Jacob or Israel's house, and a king would come from Israel. These men decide to travel to Israel and worship this new king. These men follow the star to Jerusalem and ask the people where the new king is. The people are scared as they watch these rich and powerful men ask about the new king of the Jews. For there is only one king of Israel, and he is the smart yet wicked and very paranoid Herod the Great. The people quickly tell Herod about the wise men's arrival, which makes him upset. He is the king of the Jews because his Roman masters said so. He must find the new king and destroy him as quickly as possible. King Herod is very wicked. The king quickly calls all the chief priests and scribes who study the Bible and asks them where the Messiah will be born. They read to him the words of the prophet Micah, who said over 700 years ago that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem and be from the tribe of Judah, which would be from David's family. This news horrifies the wicked king, so he makes a plan. He secretly invites the wise men to meet with him. He tells them to find the new king because he wants to worship him. But Herod's real plan is to find the new king and destroy him. After the meeting, the wise men leave the king. As they look up at the night sky, they see the star rising. So they follow it. Then, all of a sudden, it stops right over the house where Jesus is. They are so happy and filled with joy that they run to the house to see baby Jesus. They bring with them gifts for the king. They fall on their knees before Jesus and worship him. They open their treasure chest and give their gifts to him. The first gift is gold. This could be used to buy lots of things. The next gift is frankincense, which is a special gum from a tree which can be ground down and made into incense. It is very expensive. The third gift is myrrh, which is also a gum that can be crushed into a sweet-smelling perfume or oil. All three of these treasures could be sold for lots of money. These wise men gave the best gifts they could give to King Jesus. After worshiping Jesus, these men rest because they are tired after their long journey. However, they are warned in a dream not to go back and tell Herod where Jesus lives. So, they obey God's special message and return to the east by taking a different road. So, what can we learn? Well, today's main proverb is, bring gifts to worship King Jesus. You see, these wise men taught us that worshiping Jesus always cost something. It cost these guys a lot of time. It cost them a lot of money. It cost them a lot of energy. But worshiping Jesus is worth the cost. Nothing would stop them from finding baby Jesus and telling him how much he was worth to them. So, let me ask you this. How far are you willing to travel to worship King Jesus? How much time and treasure are you willing to give up for his sake? How do you give worth to Jesus? And what have you sacrificed to worship him? So take today's proverb, turn it into a question, and ask yourself, what gifts have I brought to worship King Jesus? How do you think Herod will feel when he finds out that the powerful and rich wise men are not coming back to report where Jesus is living? He will become super angry. So angry that he'll do something so wicked and terrible. I'll tell you in our next episode. Or you can read about it in Matthew chapter 2. Or do both. See you next time. So, what did we learn today? The wise men gave gifts to worship Jesus. It cost the wise men a lot to worship Jesus. They gave up their time, energy, and money. I hope you imitate them and worship Jesus. We also learned about Pastor Nicholas, who was a generous Christian. I challenge you to be like the real Pastor Nicholas. In this season of giving, try to find someone who is in need and secretly help him or her. Do it joyfully and use your money to bless someone who is in need. In doing this, you worship King Jesus. And don't forget today's main proverb, bring gifts to worship King Jesus. See you next time.
Due to the freezing weather, Mayor Freeze has suspended all public transportation until his personally owned snow plowing business have received a lucrative government contract to plow the streets. Mayor Freeze issued a statement that said, "The city can freeze. I was just elected, so who cares?" Mayor Freeze issued another statement, "Watch out for the ice, you losers."
Did you bring costumes?
Yes.
You do realize we have not seen this gear in over 10 years. Look, it's...
Cough drop.
As always, my videos, PowerPoints, curriculum, coloring pages, and worksheets are free. There should never be a price tag on teaching children the Word of God. Follow the link in the description below to download them. Use them to serve our God by training our children in the ways of the Lord.